listen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me?
Yeah.
Famous?
Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Can't get enough baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
Joining me now is somebody, I don't know what Bradford says, but I think he said something on this. Nobody else I want to join me other than my guy, Rich Hill. How you doing, man?
Good, Julian. How's everything going?
Good. How's the Little League going for your son? Or is he still in Little League?
Good. No, first year on the Big Diamond. So, yeah, making the jump from the Little League Diamond to the Big Diamond, and he's doing great. Yeah, he's been hitting the ball great, pitching great. Just getting the repetitions under his belt and getting bigger and stronger every day.
Yeah, I remember he talked to me. He said, "What are your two things that you say is like be competitive and play hard? What's the model that you have? What's the Rich Hill model?
Stay aggressive. Stay aggressive at all times.
Stay aggressive. Yep. I love that.
Attitude and effort is everything. So, body language and all that good stuff. I told him not to watch some videos, but watch most of them.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, speaking of stuff, how are you doing? What's new on the Rich Hill plate? You still throwing?
Things been
working
good.
Out?
Yeah, working out. Threw a bullpen today, and it went really well. Ball's coming out of my hand great. Probably better than it has in the last couple of years. So just wait. It's a little bit frustrating right now because sending out video, sending out data from TrackMan. It was funny last year. I was sending out video, and everybody's like, "Well, can you send us the data?" And then now I send them the data, and they're like, "Well, can you send us video?" And so I've been able to accomplish both in my very elementary way of dealing with technology. So it's been good. Fortunate to be able to have a great place to throw over at Champion Performance over there by Bentley University. So it's been a good spot to get in, basically all my workouts and throwing. And the guy that I've been working with, Jason Turner, who's been unreal, just catching and working out. He's got his own strength and conditioning program working out of Weymouth, and I've been lucky. Everything that is coming into line. So now I just need a team to, say, hey, yeah, we could use you.
Have you spoken with any teams, Rich? With any, have you spoken with any teams?
I've talked to a couple. There's probably been about 3 or 4 teams out there now that are a little bit more interested, and I think that it will only continue to pick up legs as and baseball's so fluid, right? I mean, you have one where it's like one guy goes down, or a week where 2 guys go down. Unfortunately, that's part of the business. But whether that be for injuries or performance wise, I understand some of the probably hesitation by teams, but it's physically everything is there, and I feel extremely strong, and healthy. Now it would just be somebody taking the opportunity to get reps under my belt and get back into more obviously game type situations, and then within the next 3 weeks, if it were to start today, I would say 3 weeks from now, be pitching in the big leagues.
Yeah, and when you look at, like, I guess obviously last year was a little bit different, right? Where you committed to coming back, I say, after the All-Star break, because it was important for you to be there with your son. This year's obviously a little bit differently, and like you're ready to pitch, like you said, in 3 weeks. A lot of times, oftentimes people talk about, I guess, the grind, having to work out, having to put in the work, and they say, I don't want to do that anymore. So you're still at a point now where the recovery, the workouts, et cetera, are still things that you're committed to in a way that shows that, you're not necessarily ready for retirement yet? Because oftentimes pitchers and players do say it's not necessarily the playing part aspect of it, it's the working out to get ready to play that sort of does it to them.
Yeah, and I've and to that point, I've gotten where I'm at right now. And if we go back, I mean, this could be, another podcast for another time, but just the act of attrition and being able to stay with the failures and continue to show up and continue to put in the work is the reason why I played for so long and still am playing. And I love it. I love the work. I love getting in the gym, moving weight around, and I love to throw a baseball. So it's just, and it's not like you can say, yeah, that's great. And, everybody loves to do that, especially if you've gotten to the highest level and they continue to want to do that. It's a good thing. It's a good idea in theory. But when I say I love to throw, I love the competition of pitching, and I still am, and I have the itch to do it, and the ability is still there, and the work ethic is still there. And it's definitely, again, as you said earlier, Julian, it's a different aspect this summer than it was last summer. Having only been to a few of our son Bryce's baseball games between 9, 10, and 11 years of age, and then being able to see him for a full season play was extremely gratifying. And just being able to watch him enjoy the game as much as he does, I wouldn't change that for anything. But this year it is different. I want to get back out there, as soon as possible. I have been obviously helping with coaching his team and the guys on the team that he's playing with. But again, something before the trade deadline to help a team out. And if it didn't work out with that team, then have the opportunity to go somewhere else. But I also, again, I get it, because there are days where it's like, you got to peel yourself or put yourself in the gym. And as soon as you're in there and you start moving around, you start getting into motion and stays in motion for the day. And I'm not going to lie, there have been days that are difficult, but again, it's not that they're difficult sitting on the couch. It's just, okay, once you're in there, then you start putting in the time and the effort, and it takes care of itself. So there has been no issue. That's the other side of it is being able to be fortunate enough to have the time to be in a place to put in that waking up early and getting it done, driving our son to the bus, and then going from there to go work out and throw and lift and stay on schedule. So that's been a huge benefit. How
much of this, last year when I still remember when you came in during that Mets series, you kind of felt bad for you, right? Because it's like you're a guy that's used to doing something a certain way, yeah, and you're just kind of thrown into a fire and sort of something that's unique and different. And, it's just kind of, for me, it sort of put you in a bad spot because you weren't used to it. When you do come back, because I do believe you'll latch on with the team, do you have a preference with where you want to be it as a starter, out of the bullpen? I would think it would be as a starter, correct?
Yeah, I 100% as a starter this time. I mean, I'll be candid with you. I threw a 110 pitch bullpen on Tuesday, and I came back today and threw another 60 pitches. And just to kind of put that in, perspective, if that would be what anybody who knows me knows that, that's how I operate. I'll throw a bullpen, at 20 pitches, and then, I'll throw a bullpen at 60 pitches during the season, which is uncommon. It's definitely uncommon, but it's how I operate. It's what's made me successful. And my body is completely healthy and I feel great and is holding up incredibly. So, again, that's where last year was, I was very fortunate to get an opportunity with the Red Sox and very thankful for that. And I think I kind of, was saying that I'll do anything, to get back. Yeah. And we're always learning. We're always learning at certain things, from our failures and from our successes, and being able to understand, again, who you are as a pitcher and what you've been able to do for so long and be so successful at is who you are. And that's who I am as a starter. And, I believe that's where I'm served best and what would serve a team best. And they'd be able to benefit greatly from, the ability that I can bring to the clubhouse, and also being able to post every 5 days to go out there and put up a quality start.
I've transitioned to a new role in terms of my job title and not working on the day-to-day beat and the day-to-day grind and things. Obviously, you've had a little bit of, and so I get to sort of, peel back the layers a little bit more, look at the game and its variety, and take a, wide view of things. I assume, and it's to some degree, you've had the opportunity to be able to look at the game this year and see some of the trends that are going that you like, trends that you don't like. I know one of the trends that we talked about before we got on camera was Lucas Giolito the other night, right? He could not grip the baseball, and he had a terrible line. You've had opinions on that, Rich, so I'm going to just let you go. What are some of your thoughts on the pitchers not having the advantageous ability to be that hitters have in terms of their grip?
Yeah, and I think, it's also, it's across all sports. Every sport, the grip is what is so important and so vital to the athlete, whether it's golf, whether it's football, hockey. We had talked about where they have changed the sticks over the last 20, 30 years to be able to create more, obviously, flexibility in the stick, different types of materials that have gone into the stick. And we're talking about hockey, and also what they cover the stick in now. It's not just wood as it was maybe in the, 60s, 70s, and 80s, 90s, and then they went to aluminum, and then now they're using some kind of substance over the stick, so the hockey players can get a better grip on the stick to be able to get a better shot off. And as that's evolved, in that sport, baseball has also evolved the hitters, whereas you see now torpedo bats or counterweight measures that go on the bottom of the bat to be able to get the head of the bat, or counterweight to be able to get the barrel of the bat through the zone easier. Lizard skins, tape, pine tar, whatever you want to use across the board to be able to get your A swing off. It really is, because if it was just rosin and wood, I think we'd see a different game. And, I think when pitchers go out there, the rosin, they made an adjustment to the rosin. I think that was in 2021, which was great. They were able to get a rosin that, just had a different feel to it and just applied to the ball better, where it seemed like it stayed a little bit longer. And, but again, when you're dealing with the elements, when we implement the element into the sport, whether you're playing in Texas in July in 95-degree heat, probably hotter, 100-degree heat with, unbelievable humidity, you're going to be sweating profusely. In Florida, sweating profusely. So it's like you dump your hand in a bucket of water, and then you're grabbing a baseball and you want to throw it. How accurate is anybody going to be? And I think that's just unfair to the pitcher. And then you take, April in Boston, where it's freezing cold and the ball's going to be super slick. There's no humidity in the air, and you have rosin. Take the other night where it's pouring down rain and you have the rosin bag that's out on the mound that's soaking wet. What good does that do? You know what I mean? It doesn't do anybody any good. It only puts the hitter. I mean, I watched that game and there were a lot of pitches that went up and in and could have been dangerous for the health and safety of the other players, which were hitters. And I think if you talk to hitters across the board and pitchers across the board, most everybody's going to be in agreement to being able to understand where pitchers are coming from, where the environment is going to dictate the grip. So if you're in Seattle and it's 65 degrees out every day and overcast, you're getting a decent amount of humidity, you're probably going to get a pretty good grip on the ball. But if you're playing in, Chicago, again, in April, where it's 30 degrees out, the ball's going to be pretty slippery. So how is that fair to the pitcher who's trying to provide, his best of his ability to go out there and do his job with an inferior product. I think that's where it is. That's where the line is drawn as far as how can we make this better moving forward? How can we, improve on balls that don't just come flying out of the hand of the pitcher? And I think that that's one thing that, you don't see bats come slipping out and flying out of hitters' hands as often as they did, because the improved situations with the grip ability that they have with different batting gloves, different types of substances that you can spray on the bat. And all anybody wants to see is somebody do their best. Now, did it get out of control for a while? Yeah, it was crazy. There were guys that couldn't throw breaking balls that were throwing breaking balls, right? And now, I think we've made a stride with the rosin that they're using, but it still isn't 100% in favor of getting the pitcher to throw their A pitch every single time. Dictated by environment. So if the environment was the same and we all played in Toronto in a dome all the time without it opening, and it was, or even, again, you're going to have the outside kind of factor influence, sweat, the ability, again, that dictates the ability to grip the ball, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, whether it's raining. So, and I think that position players are alike as well. They want to make accurate throws from the outfield. They want to make accurate throws from the infield to first base. They want to be able to turn double play, without having any hesitation on, is the ball going to be slippery? So, I think for a long time, it seemed like everything was fine. And then obviously it ended up, we came to a crossroads of maybe you want to say technology or trying to improve things that shouldn't have been messed with, and that's why we're at where we're at with umpires checking pitchers, and and I think that's still a bad look for the game.
So the argument, I guess, that people are making against that, in some regard, and first, I'm gonna get your question on this afterwards, but the argument that people are making is that pitchers have all the data. Mm-hmm. Pitchers, like hitting pitching will always be ahead of hitting in some aspect because you guys have the concrete data on how to pitch shape, et cetera, whereas the batter is they're on offense, but they're sort of on defense because they're reacting to something that they're reacting to the action that you're making the pitch have, or they're reacting to the pitch you're throwing. Batters are saying that you guys have the advantage a lot of times as pitchers. Is it so? But is it more of a competitive thing for you in terms of being able to have the ball there that they can that so the pitchers can be competitive, or is it more so a safety issue for you for batters and pitchers?
No, I think it's both. I think it's both. Mm-hmm. It's a competitive side because you want to a quarterback who wears a glove to throw the football when it's freezing cold out. If the NFL said you can't wear a glove in freezing cold weather to actually get a feel for the ball and throw the football, it would probably just be a running game the entire game. You wouldn't see very passes, right? And I also think that from the health and safety standpoint, pitchers who are obviously increase in velocity and balls that are running up and in on hitters, and no pitcher wants to see a hitter get injured to the point where he has to miss time because of a hit by pitch. But I also think, why is it different for pitchers than it is for hitters, as it is for football players, as it is for tennis players or golf players, or people who are on the PGA Tour? Guys on the PGA Tour wear golf gloves. Why do they wear golf gloves? Why do they have? Why do they wear it so the club doesn't slip out of their hand? They don't club face to rotate in their hands while they're going to make contact so they can make the most accurate shot that they can. But why is it that pitchers are the ones who are eliminated from basically, the equation of being able to execute a pitch to the best of their ability? And I'm not talking about enhancing anything. I'm talking about what that player has and what that player has been able to be, gifted with. And that's, really from, I think that's what all pitchers, the consistent product and something that, they can rely on throughout the season. And, I don't know. You hear a lot about Japan and the NPB and, the rosin that they're using over there with the baseballs that they're using. And why is that such a much more consistent feel in a much more consistent product than what Major League Baseball is using?
Right. So what's sort of the middle ground? If what do you think needs to happen? Like, what is there a certain texture that you're looking for? Is there a certain, how do you know when the grip is efficient enough for you to be competitive, in addition to taking into the safety of both the pitcher's arm? Because we know that without having grip, there's been more injuries to pitchers' arms, in addition to the safety of the hitters as well, who are having to have these erratic throws or these erratic pitches, buzzing by their heads.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw that with the report that came out this past offseason with the increase of injuries and leading from weighted ball programs. But really, the one thing that was left out was grip. That was the number one thing. Players, every pitcher said, well, I can't grip the ball. I can't grip the ball. I can't grip the ball. And this is what's happening. So whether you're creating more tension or, gripping down tighter on the baseball to create more tension in your forearm, which is going to lead to more stress on your UCL, you're going to have a lot of guys that are compensating to try to, make up for that slippery baseball or lack thereof, or the environment that's creating the different grip that you're not used to. Because you could be in Boston one day and then 5 days later you're pitching in Chicago or you're pitching in Texas and it's completely different. Sure. And it all has to do with environment. But I think that, trying to figure out what is the solution, the union has to sit down with MLB and come up with something, because I just don't. I don't know if my argument is actually making sense as far as where the pitcher is just getting rosin or a baseball that is rubbed up with mud, and when that mud dries, it becomes slippery. And they've tried strides as far as like rubbing the baseballs up an hour before the game. I think it helped a little bit. Maybe it would help if they didn't even rub the baseballs up. But maybe it has something to do with the mud company. I don't know, that they're tied in with, and they can't, break that. So, but does that make sense what I'm saying?
No, I get you.
I feel like some people look at me and they're like, well, why? I want the pitchers to actually have confidence and conviction behind their grip on the ball, as opposed to, and again, it's not enhancing it. It's being able to feel confident with that same grip every single time. And, the baseballs that they're using in Major League Baseball are full grain leather. And it took them forever to Major League Baseballs in AAA. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but like when you had to make that adjustment from going to AAA to the big leagues, it was very difficult. The balls were completely different. You had a bonded leather in AAA. So when that ball would skip, it was a cheaper product, and they were able to reuse that ball multiple times in the minor leagues because it would save money.
Right.
But now that they're using Major League Baseballs, I think guys should have a little bit easier time adjusting to the Major League. Obviously, get it. The ball that they're using in AAA is the same, which is great. But again, that still doesn't factor into why is there an issue with the grip in the game. And I'm definitely not going to disagree that it got out of control and like whatever. Like you had guys that were, couldn't spin a baseball that were, and and I've always been a guy. I got drafted because I could throw a curveball, and I've always been able to spin a baseball. But I get it from the side aspect of like, okay, this is, getting way out of control. And of course it did. And they made a huge adjustment. And, I still don't think that, and it's not fair to the umpires either. They have to, upon their discretion, try to figure out, is the pitcher using something, or is that too much?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because,
right.
It's a very gray area that's going on. But I would hope, that they come up with a solution and find something that everybody will be like, okay. I've heard different things from hitters and from pitchers, and it's not only the pitchers that want to see a consistent product. It's the hitters as well.
No doubt. Rich, you talked about curveball and stuff and all this stuff, and I'm thinking now to an interview that kind of made me a little bit uncomfortable to where the game is, and I wanted to get your take on this. So I was interviewing, one of the Red Sox guys, Justin Willard, director of pitching. There's so many titles today, I can't keep up. But
yeah,
and he was talking about how the goal for the Red Sox is players to throw strikes. You got to throw strikes, but they want them to be nasty in the zone. It's nasty in the strike zone, nasty in the strike zone. And this guy just kept hammering down nasty, nasty, nasty. And my argument to that is like, well, for the most part, when you're trying to be so nasty in the zone, you're either trying to spin something as hard as you can, or throw it as hard as you can.
Yeah.
Is that an efficient way to? Is that the correct model for pitchers in today's game?
I think the way I look at it is, again, it's like a symphony. You don't go to a symphony and just listen to, the lead violinist ripping away at the violin the entire time, right? Mm-hmm. It's not rock and roll. It's not like just heavy, loud music the entire time. There's an ebb and a flow to it, and that's how pitching works. That's how the game works, and that's how. If everybody went out there and had their best stuff every single time they took the mound, sure, I think that would be great. But the fact of the matter is that if you make 30 starts as a starter, maybe 5 of those times you're going to be at complete 100%. And then, the other 25 times, or the other 20 times you feel pretty good. And then 5 times you're going to be like, how am I going to get through this baseball game? How am I going to figure out a way to get through 5 innings to help my team be in a good position to win the game? And that's just being a human being. Like, nobody's a machine out there. There's as much as we love to fantasize about seeing guys have these, unbelievable fastballs or unbelievable breaking balls, and seeing that, like, what if that could be? What if this could be, 10 years, like, just see it next 10 years and this guy goes out every time. But we break down, injuries happen, and throwing is not really a natural thing to do. So I think the pitching side of it is much more intriguing. And I've heard this from so many people. They just say, well, I just don't really like where the game's going. There's just no more, it's if they want to compare it to like the NBA where it's all 3-pointers now, it's like there's no kind of, again, ebb and flow. There's no pitching. There's no, I don't want to say romanticism about it, but, you just see guys stepping on the gas and throwing, breaking balls and doing it as hard as they can. But there's also, Greg Maddux told me, he's like, do you want to, when I was coming up, he said, is it location or is it stuff? And hi, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
He said it was a rhetorical question. He said, "Is it? Are you into velocity or is it location?" And you have to answer that question for yourself. And every pitcher has to answer that question for themselves. And I think that's kind of, again, where we're at in the game, where everybody's so enamored by stuff. But yet again, you see guys now constantly flipping out 97, 98, 99, 100-mile-an-hour home runs out of the ballpark. So, okay. So now what if all things are equal and the 98-mile-an-hour fastball isn't doing it anymore. Where do you go? Where do you go from there? You have to pitch.
Mhm.
You have to pitch.
Right.
And there's still a huge amount of value in pitching and being able to make something look like something else. And it doesn't seem that way. And hitters swing at pitches that are coming in that they thought was something else. You know, that's why the changeup is one of the best pitches or the best pitch in the game. Because it mimics the fastball, and hitters got to make that decision. And it's very difficult for them to be able to decipher whether it's a fastball or changeup, instead of just throwing like the crap out of everything. And again, I think that the lifespan and duration of players is going to be shorter if we're redlining everybody every single time they go out there, instead of finding what's your cruising speed? Every golfer on the PGA Tour isn't swinging, max effort at every ball that they're going to hit off of the tee. They're probably around 75% of their max swing, and then when they need it, they bring it out. And that's the way it should be with pitching. When guys, an 0-2 count, or okay, I'm going to reach back a little bit and stay within myself, but I'm going to be able to execute a nice, extremely hard fastball wherever it is in the zone. So pitching, again, I think, I'd like to see the game kind of get back into that, because it's a lot harder to hit a pitcher who can change speeds and locate than a guy who just has unbelievable stuff. That doesn't have command.
Yeah, sure. Here's my concern with the whole thing, and I think more than anything, and I totally agree with you. I believe it's going to become a labor issue for the player, and it's another way for teams, just like the opener. Yeah. It's another way for teams to devalue a starter. Sure. You have these guys coming up at 19, 20, 21 years old, and you're saying, hey, throw as hard as you can. Yep. Be nasty in the zone.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
of course,
before you even get to your prime years, you've blown yourself out already. Your arm is blown out. Yeah. Before you get 30 years old, before you get to free agency, your arm is blown out. Right.
6 years.
Right. Walker Buehler is a prime example of a guy who came in as one of the premier pitchers in the league, but he's two-time Tommy John guy now. He's 30, 31 years old. Yeah. So now you're looking where he's taking a deal that necessarily didn't reflect his career arc at one time. So I feel like it's more of what fascinates me about this is like, this is another way for the league to not pay pitchers, to not pay starters. Because, I even go back to the Red Sox last year and Craig Breslow in there at the end of the year press conference, he was talking about we just hired a arm rehab coach, not a arm injury prevention coach. Yeah, they're already accepting the fact you're going to blow your arm out, and we're going to do something to help you rehab the best way possible. That's the concern for me, Rich.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Julian, with the labor issue, because it's who's looking out for the player, right? Mm-hmm. And I hate to use the term like company men, but you're going to have guys that are going to do whatever the organization wants them to do, and they don't know themselves, and that doesn't mean it's only players.
Right.
I think that when you actually have an environment and you've cultivated an organization where everybody's like, wow, they actually are like looking out for my best interest as well as the teams, because everybody's pulling on the same rope in the same direction. Now you've got a winning solution. And to be able to kind of have that, spelled out, I guess, is something where you're understanding that every pitcher is different. Every player is different. You can't teach the same swing to, I'm going to say Hunter Pence as you could to Tristan Cassis, right? Because it's going to be nobody would, first of all, I don't think anybody would teach Hunter Pence's swing to anybody, but
I love that guy.
But being able to identify that he's a unique player, and we're not going to try to put him in this mold where, yeah, could we get him to swing maybe 2 or 3 miles an hour harder? Probably. But is that going to work for Hunter Pence? No. You're going to take the kid that is throwing 95, 96 and try to make him throw 100. Why? I just don't see, the upside. There's way too much risk. The reward isn't there for the risk. And if you can execute at 92, 93 miles an hour, which I still think a lot of the league is pitching at, is 92, 93. I don't think it's been this such of a surge of velocity that I'm seeing, at least on television when I watch a lot of baseball games. And guys that execute at 92, 93, or even 90 to 93, you just take it down a little bit. But if you can execute, change speeds, and be able to locate, that's the name of the game. It's always been the name of the game. And, once that kind of, when you have these guys that are unicorns, your Paul Skeenses, Steven Strasburg, you have these guys that are unicorns that throw extremely hard and are able to execute pitches at an incredible rate with unbelievable movement. You're Aroldis Chapman. He's a unicorn. He's a guy, how are you're going to replicate that? I mean, if it comes along, it comes along, but why not maximize the ability? And I get it. When I say maximize, they're like, well, yeah, but why wouldn't you? If you want to maximize it, why wouldn't we try to make them throw harder? That, in my opinion, that's not maximizing the ability. Maximizing the ability is being able to take 3 pitches as a starter, 4 pitches as a starter, and being able to execute 2 of them at 100% and another one at, close to in the 90s. And then having a 4th pitch that you're working on to be able to get better and expand your arsenal. And then as far as relievers, I mean, you have your 2 pitches coming out of the bullpen, and you are going out there to, punch tickets and strike guys out. That's the goal when you're coming out of the bullpen.
But you're only pitching an inning, 2 innings. These guys are pitching every 5 days. They're supposed to go 6, 7 innings or 5, 6, throwing 80, 90 pitches.
Yeah.
That's a lot of wear and tear.
No, it's a lot of wear and tear. And I think that's why it's again, I said you learn from your successes, you learn from your failures, and you're better off for it. From last year, for me, understanding that going back-to-back days out of the bullpen was extremely taxing. It was a lot, and yes, I did that for 5 years, but I also was at a different point in my career, and I found out who I was as a starter and what served me best was starting, but also there are guys that are built for relieving. There are guys that are just a different animal, and starting pitchers are a different animal as well. To be able to get into that routine, be able to understand what you need to do on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and then get ready for your start day is completely different than what you need to do on a 7-day schedule as a reliever, and then lock it in for 162 games, because even the days that you're down, you're up. It happens so many times where it's oh, I'm down today, Alex told me I don't have, and then all of a sudden you're in the 11th inning and the phone rings. It's you're up.
I remember that.
But I mean, that's the mindset and the ability that those guys have. It's just, that's where, again, that's what's so fascinating about pitching and so fascinating about baseball is all the different entities that take place. And being able to distinguish a reliever from a starter is that starters aren't relievers. So a guy that you're trying to say well, he doesn't throw hard enough as a starter. It's BS. That's crap. What are you talking about? He's able to execute 4 pitches. He can change speeds. He can move the ball in every single quadrant of the strike zone. Yeah, he struck out 4 guys and gave up 2 hits. He didn't walk anybody, and he gave up 1 run. Somebody clipped him. He got him. Great. Solo home run. Not a big deal. Move on.
Yeah.
But everybody wants, the fantasizing of 10 plus strikeouts every time a starter goes out there. And that's just the sustainability of that, again, is the unicorn that comes along every now and then.
Yeah.
And I also think that, looking into postseason baseball and understanding that is a completely different animal in itself. And you can't mix postseason baseball with 162 regular season games. The marathon to get to the sprint is again, the ability of being able to have those 5 games where you feel like crap and you go out there and you got to find a way to keep the team in the game through 5 innings. And I think that's what makes a professional a professional. That's what makes a big leaguer a big leaguer. The guy who can be able to understand how to get through those outings instead of pulling the chute and saying, I can't pitch today because I'm not 100%.
Yeah. Rich, I have a couple more questions, and I promise I'm not trying to get your blood pressure up. I know you're an older man, but so the great the great Rob Bradford, he's all over everything.
He's everywhere. He's omni.
Yeah, he's everywhere. Yeah, he's exactly. He's omnipresent, like my mother-in-law in my house.
You're gonna get that one.
she look, dude.
There he is.
Look, we just had our second born, and my
oh, congrats.
Thank you. And my mother-in-law is at the house, and good Lord, she's omnipresent. I mean, I can't even take a crap. Rich, it's just like ridiculous.
Last thing, you get kind of you get the babysitter there though too.
Yeah, the babysitter. I guess we can call her that. But so Rob told me yesterday that catchers in the minor leagues are no longer. I mean, for the Marlins, aren't allowed to call their own pitches.
Yeah,
you have the floor.
I mean, you're in the big leagues. You should know how to pitch. I think that's one thing that's kind of the elimination of the minor league teams, the elimination of the draft, cutting the game, and for lack of a better term, like a little bit of a amputation of the the enthusiasm for baseball is going to show itself. And, when you're not really putting the players first and it's more about, it's just very difficult to get a following behind a team because everybody associates, and I'll get back to the question, but everybody associates their, fanatic, their themselves being a huge fan by saying, I was a fan of Wade Boggs, or I was a fan of Roger Clemens, I was a fan of Mookie Betts, or I was a fan, you pick a player from a generation and you say, oh, I love that team. I love that Red Sox team. Oh, I love that Red Sox team. Oh, the 04 Red Sox, Kevin Millar, David Ortiz. Yes, it was the Red Sox, but it was the players that made it happen. And those are the guys that made the moment special. And that's why everybody gets the goosebumps when you watch highlights from, the walk-off home runs or, just the incredible plays that are made over great seasons. And I also think that when you get to that point or you get to the major leagues, there's like a proficiency level that is there. And that's one of the boxes that are checked is like, is this guy ready for the big leagues? Does he know how to call his own game? Does he know how to, handle certain situations? Nobody's going to be perfect. And of course, it's going to be very rough around the edges in the start. Few players have come across this game and have just stepped right in and arrived. And that's kind of part of the issue that's going on is that, a lot of guys without putting in the time and the effort or the years, is like, you can have one good year, but to be able to over and over and over again, now you're a professional. Now you're a big leaguer. And if the Marlins are taking that kind of responsibility out of the pitcher's hands, you're completely disregarding their ability to be able to go out there and fight for themselves. And also, when you're out there as a pitcher on the mound, what feels good in your hand. What pitch you can execute in that moment. And if you're 99% convicted behind a fastball and you're 100% convicted behind a breaking ball, you bet your ass you're going to throw that breaking ball. Because if you don't throw something that you're 100% convicted behind, it's not going to work out. The conviction level that the pitcher has, that doesn't come across, the heart rate monitor with everything that's being recorded or everything that's being, data driven. You can't. There's no substitute or there's no quantification for fortitude. There's no quantification for the moment. No quantification for heartbeat. There's no quantification for balls, right? And the guys that, if they're taking that out of their hands and they're saying, you need to throw a breaking ball here because so-and-so is, he hits 120 in a 2-2 count on a Sunday day game with runners on second, and the roof is open. Like, that's what? Like, what is the picture? The biggest thing is, and I've always said this, is like, how does it feel coming out of your hand? How does the ball feel? You can go out there and have a terrible game. It's not going to happen obviously very often, but the ball could come out of your hand really well, and you could give up 10 singles and lose the game 4-0.
Right.
And you're like, damn, I threw the ball really well today, but I didn't because we lost. So we're focusing in on the outcome instead of the moment and how the ball feels coming out of the hand of the pitcher. So unless the coaches in the dugout have the same feeling, or they're, identical twins with the pitcher, then, that they should probably call the game. But if you want to treat them like, little leaguers and treat them like even college players, I don't understand why coaches are calling games. Yeah. In the beginning, to get an idea and understand, how you drive a race car. I'm not going to take a guy and put him right into the Brickyard 400 or whatever it is. You know what I mean? In a great race car, and then say, here you go win a race. And you've never driven a race car before. Of course, you're going to want to bring the pitcher along a little bit and give him an idea. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, it's your guys' game. Go get them, at the college level. And maybe even a little bit in the minor leagues, because you're going to get high school guys. You're going to get you're going to get guys from all over the world that have either been used to one way or the other way. But at some point, you're out there on that island by yourself as a pitcher in a huge moment, and you need to make the pitch that you can sleep with at night. And if the coach is calling that and you're, again, 80% convicted behind it, I don't want that as a coach. I want the guy out there going, give me the ball. I'm going to throw ABC, whatever it is. So, yeah, I think that the pitch calling is coming from the data-driven analysis and saying, you guys don't know enough, and you're too stupid to make the decision on your own to be able to go out there and decide what pitch you should throw. And you have two guys out there that are, there are two guys. There's a catcher involved. So if I'm the catcher, I'm probably pretty pissed off too.
For sure. Well, Rich, you're the best, man. Thanks for joining. And if you need a letter of recommendation for me to get you on the team, let me know. I'll gladly write it.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it. Man. For having me on.